6:30.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Welcome to this monstrous crowd here this evening to the Town of Manlius Planning Board.
Oh, yeah.
First item on our agenda is approval of our minutes of our meeting conducted on March 27th.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 27th meeting.
Second.
Motion by Richard, second by Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved as written. The next item on our agenda is the application by Horizon Solar Power and Catalyst Energy. This is on today for a subdivision site plan and special use permit on property located at 7869 Peck Road, Kirkville. We have heard from the county planning agency, and they have rendered determinations on the subdivision, site plan, and special use permit. How are you doing today, Andy?
Good, Chair. How are you?
Good.
Beautiful day to travel, that is for sure.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to what you've told us already?
That I told you in the written materials.
Yes, sir.
I don't think a whole lot. No, I think that all more or less stands for itself. I do have a rendering, an updated rendering, if the board would like to see that.
Certainly.
We'll jump right into that. There we go. So this is as stated in our written materials, kind of a worst case scenario of 2 new poles and then our pad mounted gear behind these arborvitae here on the ground. This is as reflected in our updated plan set that we have submitted to the town. And I believe it represents a further improvement in the visual aesthetics of this site.
Andy, this represents a significant improvement of the way we would like to have it and the way we were always hoping that we could do it.
Very good.
So I want to thank you very much for bringing this in. This really makes a significant aesthetic
Great.
difference.
That's really good to hear. I appreciate the feedback and kind words. Took us a while to get there, but once we wrapped our head around it, I think this is going to be a very good solution for the town and for this project.
So my next question is to the board, whether the board has any additional questions of this developer on this project.
I just think that, under the county planning made a couple observations, recommendations. The SWIP and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers review. Doug, I guess I turn to you. I'm not an engineer, but it seems to be something that is substantial.
Yeah, there's significant Army Corps wetlands, it looks like on here. In the past, the board has not allowed solar arrays permitted in the Army Corps wetlands. I think the applicant said they will be the jurisdiction on the wetlands.
This is a very common situation where we build in Army Corps wetlands. I'm surprised to hear that. I thought there would have been more discussion of that at our earlier meetings, but we have, as you know, from our delineation, there are about 3.2 acres of wetlands on the map. Let me step back actually, Mr. Rossetti, and talk about the SWIP, which is the county maybe didn't get a copy of our SWIP or didn't have the chance to review it. Because their comment and their request is essentially that a SWIP would have to be done as part of this project, which we've already done. And if there are any changes needed, we would certainly do an updated SWIP plan. Regarding the wetlands, as we've talked about from the very first time we were here, there are some wetlands on the site. I believe it's a total of 3.2 acres in total. We expect that the Corps may take jurisdiction of part of that. But anything we're proposing in those wetland areas is explicitly exempted as non-impact from the Army Corps standards. So from their perspective, driven piles and fence posts are not impacts. We will not be impacting wetlands.
Okay. And Doug, one question to you. My review of this would kind of indicate that the proposed development would not create any additional stormwater runoff into the county's drainage system. Would you read it the same way?
I have not completed the review that's with you. But I would not see why they couldn't remediate whatever action they have on this site.
That is the intent of the SWIP, is to not affect and increase the speed of runoff. And I believe that is what we've achieved through our, our minor stormwater controls we have on site, such as filter strips. There's a swale to help direct some of the surface water runoff to the detention basin. And, this is designed with people who have vast experience following DEC guidance on runoff in New York and preparing and drafting SWIFts to meet all the state and local requirements.
Okay, and what we could do at some point, we're premature at this point, but we could always make it conditioned upon engineering approval before we're done.
Happy to do so.
I am of the, if we have any additional questions, that would be the time to ask.
I have a comment. The town board is going through comprehensive plans. And part of that comprehensive plan is that they are looking at an overlay district for solar projects in the town of Manlius. And even though they did not put a moratorium on solar projects, it's my view that that's exactly what they did with this comprehensive plan. There's something in the comprehensive plan that says that we want to look at this overlay district, which may take them, I don't know how long, but that's part of the comprehensive plan. And then they have to execute the plan to come up with where they want to put these. So from my perspective, it's a hold on any projects going forward until that gets settled. So it's just a comment. And I'm just one vote, right? But I have a real problem with us approving any other projects for solar before that gets completed. And we've already done 6 or 7 projects. So that's just my thought on this, is that we shouldn't be approving anything until the town board completes their work on this.
Now, I'm gonna disagree with you. And the
That's
reason,
fine.
and the reason I'm disagreeing is because when I read the comprehensive plan, they addressed this issue and they said that they are of the belief that the code should be amended, limiting the number of kilowatts in the proximity of large scale solar plants, but they haven't done any amendment. That right now we have a valid petition and there's no reason, there's no moratorium. And my attitude would be,
Nor is the comprehensive plan adopted.
yeah, and then number 2, it hasn't been
Right.
adopted yet.
But
I think we should proceed forward. I think we should not be, I mean, you still use your argument relative to where you vote when we're all done. But,
I agree with, I agree with Joe. I feel like that, we don't really have that kind of information just yet. And that we should proceed forward as we have been with solar. Per the clear message in the comprehensive plan that the town wants to embrace the alternative energy like we've been doing. So that's my opinion.
no, that's, let me ask you something. This is very soft work because I don't know a lot about this, but this is a 4 or 5 megawatt project.
4.25 as limited by the National Grid infrastructure.
Okay. And you're gonna tie into National Grid.
Yes, sir.
So what does that mean? When you say it's a 4.25 megawatt project, what does that mean?
Good question. So that is the nameplate capacity of the project. That is the theoretical maximum amount of instantaneous power that could be injected into the grid by this
At
project
any given time?
at any given time.
Okay,
That is the maximum amount of power that we could produce.
okay,
In reality, we are going to be installing 4 megawatts worth of panels on a DC size, but the inverters clip that production. There's a thing in the industry called the DC to AC ratio. The DC is the amount of solar panels out there, then it's converted to AC. AC is what gets injected on the grid, And AC is what all utilities, how all utilities deal with interaction with any types of power plants for your home use, you know, being a 220, 240 service, 220, 240. So 4.25 megawatts, as I said, it's an instantaneous measure of power. It actually is the same equivalent as horsepower. 1 megawatt is, I think, like 1,300 and change horsepower of equivalent juice, essentially.
Okay,
So as you generate 4.25 megawatts, if you were to generate 4.25 megawatts over the course of 1 hour, that results in 4.25 megawatt hours or 4,250 kilowatt hours
okay,
of electricity, of energy. So
Thank you.
power over time is energy.
thank you. I was curious on how that works.
Yep.
So my next question is, why do we have these projects popping up in New York State, especially central New York, where the cloud cover in a given year is dramatic
Yep.
compared to Arizona? So
Yep.
what's going on?
So very simply, it's state policy. The administration and the legislature have established and put laws and programs into place to say, we want to generate more distributed electricity here in the state. And we want to do it by solar energy because it's low impact, relatively low cost, good efficiency, and has grid interactive capacities that are good. Like the fact that it tends to peak, you know, solar peaks as humans are active generally, you know, so it's called a load matching, more or less, type of electrical generation, of renewable generation. So the programs are in place. As you know, that the town also has passed in account plan and laws to incentivize the generation of local power, because we can't generate enough power in Arizona and the Southwest to power New York. You just physically cannot transport electricity in any sort of efficient fashion from there to here.
Got it.
Mhm.
So this gets into an area that is probably I shouldn't get there, but I am totally confused at how these make economic sense.
Okay, so that goes to
Develop-
your, so that goes to your question of the production level not
Yes.
being very high.
Right. Yep.
We don't have the production level of the Southwest, or even my home state of Illinois has better production than here in New York. But the price for power in New York is very high. So it's all about balancing how much product you can make and how much you can sell it for to come up with a business plan that works. You can create very few, very expensive items or a lot of very cheap items and come up with the same revenue number as you are doing your business. Do you follow me?
I think so.
So because the price of power is very high in New York, our projects are compensated because we're delivering commercial power. Therefore, we are selling a product, electricity, that is more valuable here in New York than it is in other states. Like power in the Southwest is very cheap. I'm not even sure, I couldn't tell you exactly what the equivalent sort of rate of returns are of these projects, but solar generally is kind of a high single digits rate of return, even in places like New York, where it's not the sunniest, but the price of power makes up.
And all these credits that the company gets, the developer gets from whether it's a state or, are they indefinite or are they for 5 years, 10 years? I mean, how does this make sense over a 25-year period?
So there are federal tax credits, which anybody who installs and owns a solar system would be eligible for. We have the same tax credits as you would put them on your house. There's a 30% of the investment tax credit of the cost of the system, you know, more or less.
Okay,
That is essentially a one-time thing. So it's 30% based on the cost of the system. It's the value of your tax credits. The state has set up what's called the VEDR, Value of Distributed Energy Resources, which takes into consideration the wholesale price of power, as well as the environmental benefits for solar, as well as the load matching profile of solar and other distributed resources to set a formula for how much we are compensated for our power. So that's the per kilowatt hour revenue side that we get. What we also are hoping to
for
get,
how long?
that is for the life of the project.
Okay,
Yeah, but that number changes every year. They do a calculation every year that looks back at the wholesale prices for power and comes up with like an average number for that. It looks at how the environmental attributes are being valued. It changes every year. So it's not a fixed number. It's something that changes every year, as I'll say again. Then the other thing that we might get for this project, but might not, what would certainly help us pencil is some state grants from NYSERDA, the New York State Development Energy Regulator. I forget what it is, NYSERDA. And that is a one-time, it's paid in 2 or 3 installments depending on your project, but it's sort of a one-time incentive. And again, this is something that you would get from the state if you were to put solar on your house for actually a lot higher per kilowatt rate than we are going to get, but that's sort of a one-time block grant to help these projects get going in the state.
So if you did not get the grants, would these be viable?
I think they would because of so I mean, every form of energy in this country is subsidized in some cases in numerous ways. So to say if you wouldn't get that, it wouldn't be, the grants, I don't think are the only thing that would make this viable. Everything else, like I said, the price of power really makes that happen. So it can go from, like a 6% project to a 9% rate of return, or something like that. It can help increase our returns. But in most cases, I don't think in some cases it would make a great project. It's part of the evaluation every project goes through to see if it's viable.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just wanted to get a little bit of
Sure.
education.
Sure.
Any further board questions?
I do, just one, hope that when you hear back from, Grid, that they can drop that down to 1 pole.
Right, that's what we're hoping for
I
as
just
well.
want to have that on the record, that it would be preferable if that.
Yep, right. Thank you.
So unless legal counsel says we are barred in some manner from moving forward, I'm gonna ask that we go through seeker.
Okay,
Do
I
you feel
will,
we're barred at all?
we are not burned.
Then we are proceeding
All
forward.
right. So this is a reminder, it's a subdivision site plan and special use permit. It's a combined action, so we'll answer all these questions as relates to all 3 of those matters. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Answering no or small impact or moderate to large for each question, please. So that was the first question.
No,
Okay. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
small, small.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No,
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
no,
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
absolutely not.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No,
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
no,
Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
no,
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
no,
Each of these questions have been answered, small to no impact. Accordingly, with respect to site plan, subdivision, and special permit, Chair can entertain a negative declaration.
I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for a negative secret declaration.
Motion by Heather,
I'll second it.
second by Judy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Me,
Just better.
Almost unanimous.
yeah. Did the subdivision on this
Mhm.
is creating some flag lots? Were they given variances with the ZBA?
Yes.
They did, they were given,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
So we have a negative declaration for seeker. special use permit criteria? When you're ready.
Yep. So. Just a minute ago. Okay, so the questions on the special use permit. Will the project have an adverse effect on adjacent lands, the immediate neighborhood, or on the character of the community? And
No too little.
okay, and these are the sub questions. In this plan, is the community protected from traffic congestion and conflicts, flooding and excessive soil erosion, unnecessary noise, lighting and odors, wasteful energy use, and other forms of pollution?
Yes,
Yes. Does the plan protect the community from inappropriate design and other matters of scenic and aesthetic significance?
yes.
Yeah.
Does the
Now,
plan?
can we go back? I mean, one of the questions was flooding and so on. We don't have a SWIP yet. And that's something that
You have,
We do have a SWIP,
you do.
right, it's not, and that would be.
He's not fully on board yet.
Okay, okay,
they want to be submitted as SWIP for application.
okay. I'll withdraw.
Does the plan ensure that the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed?
Yeah.
Yes,
Can any adverse impacts be mitigated by compliance with reasonable conditions?
yes.
What would those conditions be? Or what are the adverse impacts that can be
Do we have to do
mitigated?
anything with would that have anything to do with the wetlands and waiting to hear back from the jurisdiction?
Or the polls.
Aesthetics, and that's been
Okay.
resolved.
All right, so the poll issue, we can put that in the conditions. Does the project conform with the town's planning goals and objectives?
Yeah.
Yes, for the moment.
Okay, so, then the special permit can be granted with conditions. I know that we usually do put conditions on the special permit. Which is that, in this case, we have final engineering approval of the SWIP, that's on the special permit, we'll do site plan. Building permit within 1 year of the special permit being granted, and to be completed within 3 years of the application for the building permit. And generally, there are years put on this special permit. Years, how long the special permit is good.
Oh,
Folks, believe we have been doing solar for 15 years.
Mhm.
And although people would like it longer, we've been doing it for 15 on solar. Are we in a consensus on that?
Yes.
With the need to basically re-up it at 15 years.
yes.
Well, yeah.
Unless there's some reason for us not to re-up it.
Right, no, I'm sorry. No, I
Yes,
understood.
yes.
Assuming everything is still the same, we should expect a very good, thank you, just wanted clarification of the.
The other is subject to a decommissioning plan being approved.
And lastly, we need to hear back on the one remaining poll as what National Grid's position is on that. That being the case, folks, I would entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Ann, second by Richard, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing, Lisa?
Say
Andy out there. We can't tell you what we'll hear, whether we'll hear anybody come in from that neck of the woods.
Right.
But it's on for that night to see if the public has comments, and we will listen to those comments. And we'll decide where we go from there.
I called everybody for the public hearing for, which I assume is the same list for our variance for the subdivision, and let them know, that this wasn't just the subdivision, that we were thinking about putting solar out there. And I heard, I think I spoke with 3 people. One was positive, one just appreciated the information, and one had some questions, but was generally neutral to positive. So I
Okay,
called everybody.
well, we'll be going through it
Oh,
again.
understood. Yeah, I just want to let you know, I've done a little bit of due diligence.
Okay, so if you're okay, May 8th is the date for the public hearing. We'll hear from the public then, and then we'll decide what to do from that point forward.
Very good. Just to clarify, is there any site plan review or criteria or anything? I understand that's part of the approvals. We have three approvals, the subdivision, the site plan, and the special.
Right, right, and a special permit, we'll reiterate at the next
Very good.
meeting.
On the 8th.
Mhm.
Yeah, great. And again, just so I'm clear, depending on the level of discussion, there could be a final approval at that night.
Theoretically, that's
Right,
possible.
don't bank on it, but yeah,
That's exactly
just,
right.
just
How
trying
that
to get it out.
becomes.
Yes, exactly. Then we'll have another meeting 2 weeks later. If necessary. Very good. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
Andy, thank you for coming in, and again, I really appreciate your efforts to make that look aesthetically much more better.
Well, I appreciate it. It wasn't super easy, but I think we got there and hopefully there's more to come too.
You did well.
Thank you very much. You all have a good night. Thanks.
Folks, the next item on our agenda is Meltwater Solar. We heard from them today. They've asked us to remove it from our calendar this evening. It does not mean it's permanently removed, but they've asked us to remove it for this evening. And unless there's a good reason not to, I give consent, so I gave consent that it's removed for the moment. Okay? Yep. The next item on our agenda is Icon Companies. This is their second presentation relative to a site plan at 4600 Enders Road. It's all on one tax map number.
This one.
We've previously declared ourselves as lead agency on this. Hi, how are you today?
Very good. Jeremy Arts with core level architecture. It's temperature agreement, temperature on the screen.
Nice.
Yeah.
As you can see, we made a few modifications. We added a pickleball court to the area.
Nice.
We saw that.
Which allows for reuse of some existing pavement. It's usually a asphalt court that gets painted. And then we also added some walkways to existing sidewalks that are there. Down here, along here, which goes to the existing public sidewalk on the adjacent property. And then we also added a concrete walkway that goes over to access over here as well.
Yeah.
And we've also defined our landscaping as well. Want to go to the next slide? Apologies, we didn't get this one to you guys in the full size set, but we did submit some smaller copies.
Are these the drawings that came in today?
I just got them. Let's bring it up.
Sorry, print houses are very slow right now. We reduced the amount of landscaping. We've also screening the existing transformer, adding a few trees. And removing about 48,000 square feet of existing pavement, including the road that goes along and connects the upper and the lower.
That was very much appreciated. I don't know what, we got developers lately coming in here and really doing what we want to have them do.
It's reverse, I've never actually taken away pavement.
So that's great. Anything else you want to present? I do want to open up things to the board and see if they have any additional questions on things.
I think it's pretty much, really wasn't much. Things, one thing we did too, when we were doing the grading, is we added, a rock, what do you call that? Rock pad string.
Stone,
stone well.
I will run up the parking lot along the curb line. And we have put in a swale that would take it from the edge of the parking lot down to the existing swale and Enders Road. It's gonna be like a round river rock swale.
Is there any detention basins on?
No, we don't need any because we're reducing the impervious surfacing by more than 25%. By doing that, chapter 9 of the stormwater manual allows you to not have to put in any water quality or quantity facilities.
Okay,
So,
That's a reduction.
yeah, yeah,
And one of the things we did with the site metric is we added, we have some lights up here at the top and the lights along here. We put cutoffs to get us, I think we're pretty near 0.0
Point
at the
0 at the property line.
1.0 along the current property line.
These are all good. Opening it up to the board for further questions.
I don't even know how to ask this, but I'm gonna ask it the best I can. RN is keeping, I mean, one of the purposes is keeping the residential character of the property. This doesn't look residential to me at all. So are there any exterior improvements to make this look residential, or you're just taking the building and going forward?
The white blocks with painted gray and the existing processor on there are actually built into the CMU. So we'll be covering those up with a wood feature. Kind of a wood, exterior grade wood panel. Other than that, the exterior modifications were gonna be minimal.
Okay, so you can tell us tonight that you are keeping the residential character of the property, like the RM zone
Yep.
requires.
Improving it because we're reducing the pavement by so much.
That's not no, no, I'm talking about the building, I'm talking about the building itself.
Oh, building.
Yeah, the building and the exterior modifications are very minimal. It's painting the white to right now we're looking at dark gray. And then covering up the existing CMU crosses that are, I believe they flank this side and that side.
Okay,
You're gonna paint all the brick gray.
No, just the white, it's the old church was red brick, we're gonna keep that. The new pieces that were added, I'm not feeling like the 80s and 90s, it's white CMU, we're gonna paint that a darker gray.
Oh, okay.
How many apartments altogether?
18 with an office space in the upper area, which is an existing office space now. It's just gonna stay an office space.
Are these gonna be separate offices in the office space area
It's gonna be one big rentable office unit.
with several subdivisions within it? For one office?
It'll be one office, but they have it's
offices
the
within.
office, the church uses it right now, I think, for their personal church offices.
Okay,
Say you had a tenant in mind for that?
I would, know, drowsy, but I don't know if they have a tenant in mind yet.
We had asked before about the access for, you know, ADA and all that, if it was gonna
So there's
hinder.
no plans to add, are you talking about an elevator of some sort?
Well, just, I mean, and I didn't know if we had asked, or I had asked before about that because of, you know, moving office supplies and people and all that kind of stuff, whether there's that how you were, if you already had a tenant in mind that wasn't gonna be a problem for, you thought that might make it a difficult space to let.
Yeah, right now, the main entry where the ramp is where the office tenants would enter. And they go up top stairs, we do have that closed off with a door. But there's no plans right now to add any kind of elevator or lula or anything of that nature.
I guess an additional question I might have, were you still targeting an aging population, empty nesters?
I'd have to defer to Drowsy on that, I don't know if he's jumped down, but I believe that that was their target for right now, but
Again, the reason I asked, I guess pickleball is really popular.
Apparently, I've never
I've got a
really heard
couple
of sports.
neighbors that are really into it, but, so I think that that's a fantastic addition and reusing some of that pavement. And would there be any, consideration of some additional outdoor, spaces and benches and, you know,
Yeah, I think that's included.
raised planters, that, you know, I mean, you know what I'm asking.
There's a adjacent area with any permeable pavers.
Okay.
And that there's gonna be benches and seating and that's.
I was thinking of something else, maybe for people who aren't watching the sports or looking for an outdoor spot to read or to, you know,
There probably, there most likely be some benches scattered around the property in a decorative manner.
oh,
I think it's a good idea, good suggestion. I think we can incorporate that.
We could definitely talk to Drowsy and talk to him about possible benches along in the areas.
or
Maybe
even in
some
that
picnic
upper,
tables.
in the upper, let's see, northeast corner.
Mhm.
You know. I would even.
Guys, I'm on here. I just got in about a minute ago. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I hope everyone's doing well. But yeah, definitely. I think for that area, we're thinking, not permanent objects, but movable, like Adirondack chairs, a couple picnic tables, a couple benches that, you know, we'll bring in and out with the seasons.
Okay.
What are they going to get for these dollar wise?
I'm sorry,
What are they going to, what's the price of these apartments?
just about the price of the apartments, Drowsy.
Oh, gotcha. You know, we covered this last time. I think we'll fine tune it as we get closer to finishing construction and seeing where our budget's at, but they'll be market rate between, you know, $1,200 and, you know, $1,700 a month, depending on the size and number of bedrooms.
Any other questions?
Was there any further thought to how you were going to allocate the parking spaces to the apartment units? Were you consider, I mean, I think I had asked before if they were going to be assigned spaces. So, you know, if somebody was having company and they had 4 or 5 people come and park in all the close spots, and then a resident came back from grocery shopping and they were, you know,
They usually say first come, first served.
well, I just was curious if that was part of the,
Personally, not, there wasn't,
if you had thought about that at all.
there's been discussions, but we haven't made any decisions whether the parking spots will be numbered or not.
How many are they all, how many 2 bedrooms and how many 1 bedrooms?
I believe there's only 3 2 bedrooms and 15 1 bedrooms.
1 bedroom.
Okay. That would be a good time.
Jeremy can confirm it. Go to garage. When I went to the site, it looks like the people to the south park on this site. And I think by moving that parking lot back, that'll alleviate some of the front parking that seem to have on that side.
Well, it's also something that should it become a problem later, it's easily rectified by numbering the spaces and assigning them. So it's not like you have to do it now. I was just curious.
Okay. Time to move on with seeker.
And again, these questions, they can answer no, or small impact may occur, or moderate to large impact may occur. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
Yes.
Change in use, is it a small or a moderate to large impact?
It's more frequent. So I would almost call it moderate.
Moderate.
It's at least moderate.
Okay, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause an establishment of a critical environmental area?
No,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
I think that's moderate.
it's,
Small.
I was gonna say little, it's gonna definitely increase the amount of traffic, but whether it's moderate or little, I don't know.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy or it fails to incorporate a reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
Yeah,
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
no,
No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
no,
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
no,
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
no,
No.
So in this part two, the question about the result in the change of use or intensity of use of land was answered by this board as moderate to large impact. So there needs to be an explanation as to why this particular element of the proposed action is not going to result in a significant adverse environmental impact.
because of the zone change.
Is it the use of land?
It is, yes. Does it result in the change in the use of land or the intensity of the use of land? And,
Both.
but are we talking that it is moderate to large or no to small?
Medium to large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so now the question is, what is it that can make this not result in a significant adverse environmental impact?
I believe the site is already set up for it.
It's what they've already taken steps to do. They've reduced the impervious property by 25%. And that in and of itself is a significant step.
I guess that's why I'm thinking with the change in the use of land, I feel like there's gonna be some more cars and bodies, but actually you're reducing some of the use of the land.
You're taking it basically a vacant building and turning it into apartments.
Mhm.
So there's definitely gonna be more.
Well, it wasn't vacant.
It's not
It's,
vacant.
And they rent it out as a church, my understanding,
Yeah.
to another church.
That's gone. That's
So-
history.
I
But
look
that
at
was
it,
the use.
I look at it as it was designed as a church.
Yeah.
And it saw frequent, high intensity, low duration vehicular and pedestrian occupancy. And then that petered off when they built their new building. But they continue to use that building. I actually went to a like a mom's group there for years. Not a religious, I guess I had a bit of religious affiliated, the mom's group wasn't. We were there a couple times a month. And there was all sorts of, they did a lot of classes and stuff in there. There was always people coming in. That ended with COVID. But they continued to use it, but in a much different intensity and duration. And so whether that's ended now or not, I don't know, but I think that this just changes the frequency and duration of the occupancy. But I don't think it's adverse, and I think the site, as it was designed, lends itself well to this reuse. They might not all, but especially the changes that they're making to the site and the way they're modifying the interior.
Erin, would you say the intensity of use is down?
I can only speak to it as to how it was before COVID, and I never went to church there.
No, but I mean, the planned use, it seems to me is more moderate. Sure, there might be more cars for more people, but they're not going in and out, and they're not going in all at once.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And they're 1 to 2, mostly 1 and a couple of 2 bedrooms, you know.
Yeah.
This doesn't strike me as a big change. It's a big change from being vacant.
It's a change, but it's not, I don't think gonna adversely affect the environment around it.
I don't either.
I guess what, yeah,
Big
like if it
roads,
wasn't
there's
needed
lights.
for this, and it stayed with the use that it was at any day, it could have increased.
Yeah.
I look at what this question is for. The question is for the environmental quality review. And as far as environmental quality review, this is actually improving the environmental quality as opposed to making it harder. So I would say that in light of that, this is really a small as opposed to a moderate to large.
Would you like a motion for negative declarations?
Um,
We have one more,
Are we there?
we have one more.
I don't know if Jamie's ready yet for that.
No, I was just saying that we can, if the board wants to change that answer to no or small, or that it's been, that the intensity is significant, but it's been mitigated is also an acceptable.
That's
answer.
right.
Yeah,
I think when you look at the totality of the circumstances, it would be a negative declaration would be appropriate.
I think the other thing, Jeremy, can point this out on the graphic he has up there, that graphic, I'm not sure it's in your package because this just came out today. He showed the existing parking. You can point that out, Jeremy,
This, well,
at the top.
if all the kind of a dotted area, that's where the existing pavement parking.
Just for people out there, the parking right now is right on top of those two units. I mean, right on top of it. So what he's done is he's pulled it back for 50, 60 feet. At
Give or
least,
take,
right? I mean, when you go out there, you can see there's an old fence. That, I don't think that building's to the scale, maybe it is, but there were a couple units there. And I think by bringing this back and by putting the shields that had put on the lighting plan and everything, this probably makes this a lot better for their neighbors.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
don't get that big intensity here.
Yeah.
You know, a night church or a day church.
Well, when everybody's leaving and all the headlights come on all at once.
Yeah.
You know, this is a massive improvement.
Doug, from an engineering point of view, would you feel that we're out of line and thinking in terms of negative declaration?
No, I think I'm board with that. I mean, Henry Road is a selector street over there. It gets a lot of use. I mean, you know, I don't see any need for any other traffic in there or anything else, right? I mean, this is probably like in the past.
What have you done for handicap apartments?
per the code, we have to have 5%, and we have 2 apartments that we are going to look at that can be accessed from the main entry. We're gonna make those 2 apartments into accessible apartments.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion.
Negative secret declaration.
A motion made by Arnie, second by Valerie. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Negative declaration. I would entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Judy, second by Ed. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing scheduled for May 8th. I think you're all set unless you need something else.
I do not need dinner, that's what I need.
Well, thank you for coming in. The last item on our agenda is to have a discussion regarding plan unit development. And we are specifically, we're not specifically talking about anything. This is a plan unit development. It's a new law in the town of Manlius that could be anywhere done in the town. Obviously, the real reason is that we're talking about it is because of Twin Ponds or Twin Shores. But this new law that they're talking about is actually not specific for that. This is for anywhere within the town. Questions about it?
I've gone through this. I've got a lot of comments, questions. I don't know if maybe Jamie, I should send you an email with my concerns. Or if I should.
Well,
speak.
I believe that this is going to be on the agenda of the town this week, if I'm not mistaken. So if we don't recommend and vet this, we're going to lose the opportunity as a
Okay.
board.
All right, then, can I go through my,
Go ahead.
all right.
There are,
Chair?
there are,
Yeah,
there are,
go ahead.
there are several places in this document that talks about the comprehensive plan and this being consistent with the comprehensive plan. And since we don't have one, it makes no sense to have that in here. So, I mean, I can go through in 155.20.1B, it mentions it twice. In H, in I, it mentions it again. It also talks about, I'm just gonna rattle this stuff off, Jamie, and if you. In I, this is 155.20.1. I. It says, develop land that has unique characteristics, including water bodies, steeper slopes, topography, challenges, connectability, population centers and commercial areas, and authorize growth to meet goals and policies of the town. My question is, what are those goals and policies? I don't know what they are, but that's stipulated there. In 155.20.2, under definitions, planned unit development, again, the goals of the town comprehensive plan and town zoning code. What are those? So we're being asked to comment on some things that we aren't sure what they are. Getting all this down, Jamie?
I more or less.
155.20.2 D, second paragraph. It talks about, and this is more of a typo than anything else. But under district plan approval, it talks about the legislative body to create a map, so on and so forth. Well, the legislative body is town board, just say it, town board. They don't need to say legislative body.
Where?
It's not E.
This, I don't even, I'm not even sure what page it is, but. It's 155.20.2 definitions. D as in dog.
Mine is E.
Pardon?
I have it on E.
Letter E.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I wrote a note there and it
covered it up.
obscured the E. I can't even see it. Yeah, it is E. District plan approval, the legislative body. Well, it's the
Yep.
town board. In G, and I don't understand this, but PUD site plan approval means the signing of a final plan by a duly authorized member of the town planning board pursuant to a resolution granting final approval to the plan or after conditions, if any, specified in said resolution granting conditional approval. Are we talking about conditional or final or?
So the way that this is intended to come down is it's someone's like, I
It's a
want to,
framework.
right, I want to do a PUD, right? So they go to the town board and says, I want to do a PUD. Comes to the planning board and the planning board starts working on the development of this district plan. So it's a lot of planning board stuff.
That's
Then-
another comment I have here because that is not the way it's written.
That's the intention.
But that,
It's not written that way.
Um,
And I'll get to that It's later on. I'll hit that in a minute. I'm not there yet. 155.20.3 overview of process. I gotta read this. Oh, it talks about the applicant, but it never talks about the actual owner of the property.
Well, the applicant is not, an applicant does not have to be an owner.
I
The
understand that.
applicant be someone who's in contract.
I understand that, but I would think that we would want the owner's somehow approval that this applicant's running around putting in an application for the owner's property,
Same,
we do.
we do, there's a process in place for
but
that.
that's not in here.
Well, it's in process, it would be at the discretion reasonable of the board like it is here. Like you come in and you say, I have a contract, and you're like, okay, and everybody sign off.
And I guess, Jamie, the way I look at stuff like this is
if we could be more clear in the document, then there's no discrepancy later on that says, hey, I didn't know this guy was putting something in on my property. So,
But we control that.
Mhm.
The town planning board controls that. So what we're doing is we're doing a dichotomy. First of all, first proposal is relative to the PUD altogether.
Yep.
And we're gonna make a recommendation as to whether we want to have PUDs or not. PUDs are so common. We've been dealing with them for 30 or 40
Oh,
years.
sure.
They're, but we haven't had them in Manlius.
never, yep.
So if the law gets passed, then it comes in front of us. And in order to come from us, it's got to be signed by both the applicant and the owner of the property.
Well,
That's that's
No,
mandatory.
I understand. I'm
And it
just
actually
saying,
says only persons who can demonstrate legal control over the parcels. Or they're authorized can be the, file the application.
and so that tells me we have to look at the contract to see if they have control. Why not just put in here the owner?
Because it might not be the owner who goes through the process.
I understand,
like it
it
is
could be an
here.
applicant, but I'm just saying, if the applicant is moving this forward, the owner should be aware of it and be signed off somehow.
Yes.
We've always signed it in the
Same thing.
past.
It doesn't have to any different than any of the other types
No.
of applications.
So we
And
would.
it actually says it right here in this section A.
So we would get this application for a special district, for a planned unit development special district, and we handle it the way we normally handle everything. And when we get the proposal all done, and we've got everything in line, then we have to go back to the town board, and the town board is going to say yes or no on the special district that we have
Mhm.
proposed.
I
But
don't-
we're in total control of everything, needing only final approval from the town board as to what it is that we've done and that we've created a special district.
I understand that completely.
Okay,
I am just saying that nowhere in here does it say the owner is involved in the process.
Well, it says here, it does say,
Mhm.
only persons who can demonstrate legal control over the parcels covered by the PUD or their authorized representatives may file. A contract vendee of land may be considered to have sufficient control for the purposes of submitting the PUD,
Why not just say the owner?
because it doesn't have to be the owner.
I disagree, but okay, we'll move on. I
It
really,
doesn't-
really, I just think that if the owner isn't aware of what's going on, that's a problem.
If somebody comes in and says, I want to do this, and they're not the owner, then we have to see this control.
we seize control.
Okay,
We have done it in the past. We will continue to do it in the future. We're not gonna let somebody come through who doesn't have the authority to do it.
and okay, I'll just, I'll
Okay.
say, okay. Paragraph E. This is in the same section. The applicant for PUD district shall pay the town. And the town shall be entitled to receive reimbursement for. Any and all, I would add to that, expenses associated with the review of the application submitted pursuant to this article. Prior to the approval somehow needs to be worked in there, in my opinion.
Okay.
B, 155.20.4. I apologize for going through this, but. The district plan map talks about. That it has to be contiguous, 25 acres or more. In no instance shall the PUD district be bisected by a state highway or county highway. I would add to that state or county lands, not just highways, but lands.
Give me an example.
That's in 155.
No, give me an example of what that would be a state or county.
The Erie
line that would
Canal.
provide it.
The Erie Canal. Green Lake State Park.
Rich, can I ask why?
Pardon?
Can I ask why?
Why do I want that in there?
Mhm.
Because we can't anticipate everything in the future. And we have, as long as we're gonna do state and county roadways, why not put state and county property? It's the same thing,
I would
but it
actually
expands.
leave that off of the legal end of it. And consider that on a case by case basis as it comes before us, because there might be a very good reason. Should later on the state require, or the county require some land. You know, that of recreational outdoor space or something. I mean, like Green Lakes is broken into a couple parcel, you know. What if something came up where we thought it was a really good idea to have it straddle something or do whatever, and this would prohibit that? I would suggest we leave it the way it is and then take that into consideration should it come before us.
That's fine.
Or yeah,
I'm just,
maybe not as strong as in no instance shall, maybe
okay, or it should
special
be taken into
consideration or
consideration.
at the discretion of the.
What, I'm just pointing that out, that those
Yeah.
aren't the only things that can separate parcels of land, and if there's something that you want to consider going forward, that's fine. Let's see, the applicant must provide a
Let
completed,
me just say one thing about this, but it's a zone change.
Right.
So if somebody comes with an application, the town board can straight up refuse to send it here. If it's such a bad idea.
or if it's a great idea that they think, they can not send it to us too.
But I think the planning board, to Jamie's point, I think to Aaron's point, if I has the ability, the flexibility to look at something and say, you know, it might be pretty cool to have a hardship cross. For example, right, and have something on two sides.
It leaves us more control later.
Well,
Yeah, I
but it
think
also
that
says
we know
25
that.
acres contiguous, so that defeats the purpose too. In that area.
That's a
Yeah,
good-
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Maybe
It-
different language.
They contradict.
Yeah, so I'm just pointing out the things that I saw,
Mhm.
whether or not they make sense or whether or not we agree with them.
I would remove the contiguous then, because I think it leaves us more flexibility.
Mhm.
It's unlikely that someone's going to do that. I mean,
Right.
piece little pieces together, but, what if there was some weird thing where they had multiple parcels and I don't know.
And
I
they're
can't even,
separated, they were separated by 20-foot easement or something.
I don't know that, I would hate to restrict it too much now when we can do that in the review process.
Like I said, I'm just pointing out things that I saw that I thought should be considered.
Less laws, Rich,
Pardon?
less law.
What?
That's law.
Less law? And see, I'm just the opposite. I like to have clarity. I always want
Sorry.
I always want clarity so that 10 years from now, somebody says, well, what do you mean by this? I said, "Oh, let's get it done now." Okay, I'm in, I don't know where I am now. 155, 20.4, paragraph F. Environmental review. The applicant must provide a completed part 1 of the full environmental assessment form. In addition, the applicant will be required to provide the town with any information deemed necessary by the town in order to evaluate the potential environmental impacts of the proposed development. And I just simply said that should also be part of what the planning board does in their site plan approval.
It is.
Site plan approval is site plan approval. It still has.
So we don't need to say it here because it's already part of the site plan approval.
Well,
I'm just, again, I'm trying to clarify.
no, I get it, and it's, this is something like when it comes to us and we do it for the first time. I think it'll be a little confusing, as to what happens, but what's intended to happen is, and I think it is, I looked at this also and asked a bunch of questions of Tim when it first came to me. I had no hand in drafting it.
Yeah.
And I went back and forth and looked and ultimately felt satisfied that what's happening is someone's like, I got 25 acres of land. I want to do something that's not in our code. I want it to be unique to this parcel.
Mhm.
And 25 acres seems like a pretty good, and it needs to be contiguous, as we said. And then the town board, if you look at the procedures section, it's gonna be like, looks interesting. But the real people who understand what's happening in the town is the planning board, and then they send it to the planning board, even before site plan approval,
Yes,
right?
somebody comes with an application,
Mhm,
we want to do
mhm.
PUD on this
Mhm.
location, it comes to us for our review. and a referral back to town board,
And then it comes back
to the site.
again,
Yes, for the site.
right?
Yes.
So it's pretty, before it ever gets all the way back to site plan, there's gonna be a lot of vetting that's gonna happen. That is what's intended.
I don't disagree. My whole career dealing with contracts is make it clear
Mhm,
so there's no misconceptions later on.
mhm.
And as you know, a comma in a contract can have a big impact on what we're trying to say. And so that's all I'm
And thought
saying,
as
and
well.
what I'm going through is let's be clear, so there's no questions 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever. And if,
Okay, all right, what else?
Well, this falls under the application requirements for the PUD.
correct,
So I think that answers that.
well, this is
It's
a-
just the PUD application that requires that full seeker.
yes.
Well, yeah.
When they come forward and they say, I want to do a PUD on this
Yeah,
piece of property, this is the document.
Yeah.
And then it moves it forward,
Mhm.
but. I
It's
mean,
like,
does it
it's like
hurt
a
to put-
zone change,
Yeah.
right? So a
Mm.
zone change requires seeker, a zone change requires, the type 1 action and the whole bit. Like this group who was here, they had a zone change. Then it comes back for site plan approval. It's really no different, and there's a whole secret process involving the site plan review.
Yep.
So you know that one, but
yeah,
that's, yeah.
I've submitted and developed several,
Mhm.
and not from Manlius, but I think that there were, had to prove with the PUD. I mean, at the time, I forget where they were, but that's where you do your proof that it's okay,
Mhm.
that it's gonna work on the broad brush, and then you come back.
For more
with the
specific,
details.
sure. Mhm.
And that's where all I'm saying is that, this full EAF is coming on just the application to even see if you can get a PUD. There'll be much more
Mhm.
detailed investigation on the site plan and.
I don't disagree.
Can we time out you for a second?
Yep.
Aaron, I'm interested in what you think about this framework, having done these previously.
I
Do you
think
think
that
there's
we'll
some-
have to rein ourselves in when it comes to the PUD application review. Because it's easy to let your mind jump way ahead to what the site plan review for the PUD once it's accepted would be. I think making the criteria really specific of what we would want to see as far as, because to cut it off right there, the design process, even mentally, to kind of draw a line right there is tough. And so to have like a
zone change.
specific of what we want on the plans, what we,
Like, it's like, generally, does it look like it'll work? Does it generally look like
like, what do
you
we
probably
need to
can put a
see
road? Or
traffic wise,
Yeah.
engineering wise? What kind of plants are chosen, how many parking spaces exactly there are, like, all that kind of stuff can wait, but some of the basic stuff we need to list out. And I've even seen it go, like, beyond the full EAF. If there's certain triggers, certain distances, certain default stuff, wanting to see all of that vetted out before it even makes the rounds.
Is the 25 acre minimum absolute? Does that come from some other place?
It's an absolute according to this document.
It was talked about, I believe, at town board, that you don't want, well, by the way, the county came back with a referral. on
Yes.
this. The
Yeah,
county
they said-
said you should take out any acreage requirement. You have to understand, the county is on a trajectory to take zoning away from the towns. So that very much fits in to that framework, because everything should be a PUD. It's so, somebody comes in with an acre of land, PUD it, put in whatever you think.
We
Put in
don't want
house it.
that.
So this acreage number is something that's been out there. I know it's something we're looking at in DeWitt we have something, it's not called the PUD, but something similar to this. And I've been on a developer side of this, kind of a project, and I've been on town side in a couple of towns. And what I'm interested in feedback, I think from this board is, you know, do we think this sets up a framework? You're not done yet, and I'm
No,
hearing
I'm
from
done,
bad.
I'm done, that's okay.
So
Jamie, I asked the question because.
I was just planning you time out review. I wasn't
No, that's okay.
dismissing you.
I get what the discussion is, and that's okay.
The reason I asked about the 25 acres is that if you had a 22-acre spot that was just a natural for this, you'd eliminate it in advance. And I wonder if that's intentional, or if that's one of those accidental arbitrary things where somebody says, let's set a minimum acreage size for this, so we don't have spot zoning all over the town. I'm worried about the 25 acres. I think it's arbitrary. What the hell is special about 25 acres?
I don't know.
I'm not,
It's just,
I'm not pulling your chain. I'm
No,
genuinely
I
serious.
didn't come up with that number, so I don't know.
And I don't know who did. That's the reason I asked is, did the state mandate?
No.
No,
No.
okay. So why should we tie our hands arbitrarily before we've ever done a PUD? When in fact we may be missing out, because there aren't that many pieces of land, 25 acres wide, that are PUD-able in the town of Manlius.
I think that it's a conservative number because the town is not. I think the town's trying to check it out. Like, let's see if someone comes in on 25 acres. If someone comes in on 10 acres and says, everyone, you're missing this great opportunity, I suppose that's up to the town board to look at, but I don't think they're ready for that.
I think we should seek that as a community. And I think one thing is, and I think we should look at that if it is, in another community, was take that number of acres, whether it be 20, 15, 25, take a GIS program, punch it in and see where
How many of them are there?
how many are there out there, and it made me surprised. I mean, I was really surprised when I did it, like in the last couple of weeks for another community. And it was like big, and it's like, wow, I had no idea that's what it's gonna look like. Right, so I think, you know, it may be an exercise this community may want to do is just, I mean, it took me all like a half hour
Yeah.
to punch it in and just look and say, bingo, there you are. And then you can play with it and you could do 25, you could do 20, you could do 10, you could see where it impacts your areas.
Yeah, and two other things to consider with that. I know what you're talking about, and to also take a look at people can assemble and combine parcels.
Of course.
You know, so it might not just be, there's 25 acres here, it could be, 20 and 5. And should they do that? And the other piece that comes in with this stuff, especially when you look at towns and you get closer to the outside edges, is that what would happen if somebody was on Route 5 and wanted to be between the two towns? Like, how would that get handled? I didn't,
Well,
I saw that in here, but like,
Yeah.
is that something that it might not come up on a search that we would have enough there, but if they wanted to, as you get into the larger parcels, the
let me
further
just
right
put
you
it this way, I wouldn't want to spend too much time talking about that right now because the division of municipal lines is a tricky thing
go. Okay,
in general.
but would that be covered?
No,
Okay, so that would be disallowed.
What we could do though,
Okay,
we've got a law relative to solar projects. They have to be located 1 mile from each other. But there's an exception in the law saying that if the town planning board is of the reasonable opinion that it's appropriate to have a lesser amount, then you can do that. Why couldn't we do the same thing with Garden Wood?
I think that that's something good to explore, because I do agree.
Yeah.
And that
I
would
agree
give
with
us
you.
leeway
24
based upon
acres would be perfect.
circumstances.
But see, with this, it's different, because this is a town board, this is a legislative body issue. So it would be the town board that would make that call, not the planning board.
But we're providing feedback, and that could be some of our feedback to the town board, is we think they should review the language.
And they may listen, they may not.
That's
Yeah.
not.
Well, I
up to
think,
us.
yeah, like reviewing the language, something like along the lines of Joe was saying. And then I really like Doug's idea that we could recommend that to them as well.
What is it? Post
Looking at the
PUD?
GIS. for the different acreage?
No, we had a PUD water tree of DeWitt is cut.
Yeah.
Is that
Do it.
PUD?
To help
Yeah.
inform that,
What-
to help inform that number.
I didn't know that was a PUD.
Well, that's a different kind of a PUD. That's a state wide, a different planned unit development for residential. The PUD where they happen pretty frequently is in Baldwinsville, Lysander.
But the overlay district.
Oh, Radisson.
That overlay district in DeWitt is very similar to what we're trying to do.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This is something that we will not be dealing with all that often. But from time to time, that would pop up and,
They're looking for that thing with the two lakes for this.
We could let.
oh, yeah, that's exactly,
let the town board
that's why,
know that
that's why they're
Maybe
considered.
not as a board, but that some members of the board are in
And do they
favor
consider the water
or
as
not
part
in
against
favor, or
it?
in support of
That's the question that
exploring
has
that
been not
25
answered.
minimum.
That has
acreage.
not been answered by the zoning board of appeals. They withdraw
I don't think all of them
temporarily
have.
from the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking at the language and if there's a way at the discretion of,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if,
Madison Row in the villages,
Where, Madison Road?
Madison Row, in the village of Manlius.
But that's a village, different zoning.
Just to give you an idea, right? And I don't know what the size of that was, maybe it was 12 acres.
And that's terrible.
I think,
it's that.
I told them, do not build here, nobody's gonna use it. I don't know why they did that.
Well, I think the town board is looking to hear from us as to whether, I think number one, whether we're okay with the idea of planned unit developments. And I really think we can maintain the control that we've had before. And yes, everything is subject to the final approval of the town board, but we still have the control we normally have on site plan and on everything.
I don't disagree.
So-
There's some items. I'll just give this to you, Jamie, and you can.
well, let me add, let's just trying to figure it out now. If we do say that the planning board is agreeable with the idea of planned unit development.
Absolutely.
So that would be number one. Lisa, if you're getting that, and I'm writing this as well. That they're satisfied with the referrals to the planning board
Yes.
as being consistent with the duties of the planning board, right, as they've been outlined,
Similar to zoning, yeah.
as it's been outlined in site plan review, et cetera. Is it fair to say that the members of the board, all members support exploring the 25 minimum acreage as being too absolute?
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there's gotta be a way to word it that around 25 acres would be great, but it could be at the discretion of, or some, I mean, I'm not.
That need some discretionary language.
Variance.
Yeah.
They'll just be-
That'll work.
I don't know how you feel about that there needs to be certain. There needs to be certain items. I mean, when they look at the criteria and all that, I think. And actually, if you can elaborate, because the ones I've done were like Rochester area and. There needs to be a list of things that they submit that clearly explain their vision. But without going too far, as far as efficiency of everyone's time and money, but that it's enough information that we can respond.
I think it'll be,
That's in here.
yeah, I think.
But it wasn't like outlined. It's very vague. You mean on the review criteria?
Yeah, this
But
section here.
yeah, but it doesn't, it's more like seeker kinds of.
Well, I mean,
questions.
I had
Then-
some comments on that.
You know what I mean?
What-
It's
Like what?
Whether the proposed plan will negatively impact natural resources, the environment, or historic resources.
Mhm.
Negatively.
It's subjective.
Every development negatively impacts those things, so it has to be substantially or some,
Okay,
you know, I mean, those are little things, but
Yeah.
it's kind of how I look at it, because you build a building, it's gonna have negative impacts on the environment. There's no way around it.
Well, and this is written that the town board shall review these.
Right.
Make judgments
Right.
on these.
Well, yes. After, like, they
Oh, so that's
send
in
it
their
over.
final, that's their final.
And then they
Can I
said,
ask a
right, it's
question
a
about that?
ping pong.
Okay,
Can I ask that? I had a question about that actually with the process. I was a little confused. So under 155.20.3 letter B, in the overview of the process, it says the establishment of a PUD district plan shall require 2 steps: approval of the PUD district plan application. So is that
But
both the town board and the planning board have
yeah,
to
you gotta
approve
go,
it?
you gotta go, you
Yeah,
gotta keep
I don't know if we
reading
should be
that.
a little clear.
You gotta keep reading because it is only the town board that's going to approve it, but they're getting input from the.
I guess that's right. Where is it clarified?
Under the procedures, 20.5. You got a pre-application, process. You're gonna get the application, you're going to provide comments within 45 days.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Which is
what
another
section?
comment I have.
Okay,
I'm
it's
gonna-
not long
I mean,
enough.
just, no, I just, little things like,
Mhm.
I mean. We should be able to, the town board should extend that deadline. If the situation demands, for
It says
example,
may proceed without receiving comments from the planning board.
May,
May,
yeah,
not shall.
I understand that,
Mhm.
but it'd be nice to have something in there that says. For example, we get it on the 20th of December,
Mhm.
you have Christmas, you got New Year's, you got this, that, and other thing. And then they can go forward without having any input from us. There should be some extension language in there. I'm getting too far to read.
No, I get that. I don't disagree. I looked at that the first time. And then I read it, because you have to look into it. It's 45 days would be super fast, right? To get,
Especially if it's a major project, yeah.
well, should we recommend a change to 60 days on that? And then it's still a May. You can still extend it. Because 45 days is like barely a minute in planning board life, right?
I don't see any downsides to that.
Yep,
Yeah,
What?
Putting it at 60.
Yeah, I mean,
extend 150-20.5E to 60 days. Okay.
yeah, and I guess back to my question of like,
Yeah.
if I was a developer trying to follow it, said, but I just didn't know there needed to be
Oh,
a little more clarification in the letters. That 20.3 letter B, like,
yeah.
what is the approval of the application ultimately back with the town board?
Yes.
definitely.
So I don't know if we should just, my question would be, should we just add that right in there so that it's clear?
Do you think it's unclear?
No, I think it's crystal clear that it's the town board that approves the PUD.
Okay,
If that's what the question is.
yep.
And where is that language about substantially negatively impact?
155, 20.6 C,
Okay. Add substantially
where it says
negatively.
whether the proposed plan will negatively impact, well,
Mhm. Okay.
and if you want to listen to one more thing, and I'll keep my
Yeah,
mouth
no,
shut.
no, you're not. It's
In
fine.
F,
If everyone agrees.
in F, whether the proposed plan will have a negative impact on existing residential uses of the land in the town in terms of traffic noise, dust, odors, but, and I love including but not limited to. Traffic noise, dust, so there could be some other issues that aren't identified
that.
there
Mhm.
that
Okay.
should come up.
And that's an F 120, 155-20,
155, 20.6 F.
Okay.
Here, pass this on.
including
I'll keep my mouth
But
shut. I'm not even
not-
looking at it anymore.
limited to. That's unfair. I think everyone's listening to you. Okay, so. All right, so I've got 6 things so far. Anybody else?
Yeah. There should be a caption under every photograph as to where it is and how it got there. And why it's there. So you see a picture of things that we like, things that we didn't like when we took the survey. You have no idea what those are. Are they photographs? Are they architectural renderings? Where are they? Are they in Pittsburgh or are they in Casanova? Or are they someplace in New York City? Every picture should have a goddamn caption.
Oh,
That is so odd. I mean, that goes with graphic design 101. If you don't have a picture, if you have a picture and no caption, why are you taking up all that space? For the kids who can't read, come on, we're past that stage. Tell me what it is, why it's there.
Let me ask this one other thing that Rich brought up. It does refer to the comprehensive plan. A lot. Does anyone want to comment on that?
Proposed.
Do you think we should, does anyone want to
I mean, we're approving,
comment on that?
yes,
Well, I
if they approve that law,
The draft.
if they approve that law with the references to the comprehensive plan. And, yeah, and mind you, the comprehensive plan is the starting point.
Mhm.
And then they might have 2, 3, 4 years of executing it. And so a lot of these things won't be finalized for who knows how long.
What's the guidance document?
It's a guidance document, but when they say it's gotta be consistent with the comprehensive plan, well, we're not really sure what the final outcome when they execute it will be.
Could we also ask them?
Well,
to review it every
well-
5 years?
I think that's in the plan.
Is that in?
I recall
What if
seeing
we,
that in the
what
plan.
if references to the town comprehensive plan are the town comprehensive plan? Including the draft dated, the draft plan and changes there too.
Well, I'm gonna
Modifications.
disagree. Because in the comprehensive plan, it says they're gonna have an overlay district telling us where they wanna have solar projects in the future. Well, it's one thing to say we're gonna have an overlay district in the comprehensive plan, but until they define where that is, how can we approve solar projects?
Well, right now, the town comprehensive plan is a non-defined thing, right? So when it, comprehensive plans, if
It's
there
not
is
a law.
not one different,
It's not a law.
it's not a law. A town comprehensive plan can be the body of what has happened in the town. So right now, if there's the draft town comprehensive plan as of X day and modifications there too, that would be one way to say it, or you just leave town comprehensive plan, which is currently defined as the body of work of the town, not that document.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's tricky.
It's difficult. I mean, right now, if somebody walked in and said, I want to put a pot dispensary in this building over here, we've got nothing in our law. I mean, they're working on it in the comprehensive plan, or we want to have a lounge, a marijuana lounge or whatever. There's a lot of things like that that we just don't, I mean, how can we respond to that if we don't know what the town board's intentions are?
So what's the solution to that in this?
I'm getting too
document?
far in the weeds. I won't say anything.
We either leave it,
By approving any solar project until we get the order.
That's kind of where I'm at, Marty. I
When you
really am.
made that comment, I thought about it and I thought, there's been so many approved, right, that haven't been built.
6 or,
Yeah.
yeah, 6 or 7.
Have any of them reached the point at which they've lost their
Yes,
ability?
yes.
So they
And
would have
there's-
to come back.
And there's some approaching that
And then-
deadline.
You know, how does this stuff work in with? I mean, I've never been on this side of the table with moratoriums, but have on the other end, and, you know, I know it can be very messy legally.
well, there isn't a moratorium and one is not being considered. on
Right.
solar.
But is that something that we can do informally? If we're trying to figure out with the overlay and the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan and all that stuff, can we flat out say to an applicant,
No,
we don't want to do that right now?
no.
Absolutely. We can say that. They may sue us, but we can say that.
I do not think it would be defensible.
So anybody
because
that comes before us that meets the zoning
if they
and all
meet
that
the
stuff.
criterion, yes. But the criterion can be very broad, right? So there are things that can be not allowed, you know, based on site plan review and those kind of criterion, or the criterion that it doesn't meet. One of the things we're gonna do next time, if this gets approved, is the saturation. We can disapprove it based on saturation. We can disapprove it based on any of the site plan, the special permit criterion, all those things you can use. But not just straight out like, not the reason that, well, we're waiting for the comprehensive plan, then you cannot do. Can't do that.
I didn't think so.
What about with the special use permit? It had been historic, 7 years, that's it, 7 years, 7 years, and when we got to these.
Yep.
And went to 15.
Yep.
What if we went back to 7 now? Is that an issue?
No,
We could do
if
that.
there's a reasonable reason for it.
They're not gonna tear it down. You mean if the permit wasn't renewed, they would have to tear it down?
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
if the
Yep.
permit wasn't renewed, but there would have to be a good like you go through
Like,
the
they're
special.
betting on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, that's.
And that's why we went to 15. It was reasonable
Oh, yeah.
in light of the investments that they are doing and what they're doing. The fact that we've got a decommissioning clause already with the money being set aside for decommissioning, 15 years is fine and appropriate. We'll stay with 7 on everything else, but 15 on solar.
Which, I hate to even go here. Doug, the project that we had on the agenda today that we did not discuss, they had a $95,000 decommissioning check. Did you ever see any documentation to justify that?
no, the
No.
meltwater.
No, yeah,
Oh. I don't know off the top of my head, but basically what we've adopted is the NYSERDA criteria.
okay,
NYSERDA has a criteria for decommissioning that they recommend to communities,
okay,
so that's what we benchmarked against.
okay, all right. I just saw that, it seemed really low and I was like,
So that's where we've gone, right? We've gone off the NYSERDA benchmark, so that we're consistent across the board.
okay.
My understanding is there's only 2 projects that we approved that have not been installed. And just so you know, you talked about randomly declining applications.
Yeah.
I think we did that today. We have an application for a solar project on Townsend. You guys may remember Townsend, because we just did a project on Townsend. And we told them that would violate town law and that we would recommend to them that they withdraw even thinking of it. We don't want them to waste their money. However, if they want to go forward, they can certainly go forward and we would have to hear that application notwithstanding. But it just seems that in light of the 1 mile rule.
It's 200 yards away.
That's exactly what it is. There would, not appropriate.
So why don't we just say that the town board should consider the references to quote town comprehensive plan since one has not been adopted? And let them chew about it, right? So I have 7 items. So do you want me to review them again or? We're good?
I think we're in consensus with those. So you got it, Jamie.
Okay. Lisa?
Yeah.
You and I will get those.
Got it.
I can read my handwriting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Richard, second by Arnie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.